Hello. I'm Pau, and I'm so excited to make this video because it's a very interesting case I've wanted to tell you about for a long time. It's the story of Lady Eom. The case happened in the early 2000s, but so far she still holds the record for being Korea's top female psychopath. There's a test to determine your psychopathy called PCLR, which has 40 questions or 40 characteristics. And this woman got a score of 40 points out of 40 questions, meaning she meets every single characteristic. And so far, she's the only Korean woman to have this result in all of history. Lady Eom was born in 1976 in South Korea. By the way, sorry if I don't pronounce some of these names correctly, since they're in Korean. She was born into a family with money. They weren't millionaires, but they didn't struggle either. She was always a very attractive woman. They describe her as tall, thin, and, especially, a stunning, beautiful face. Her face wasn't revealed. In photos and videos, they always cover it. But people who know her say she looks like the actress Park Shin-hye. Lady Eom took advantage of this beauty and used it to get whatever she wanted. She got married when she was in her 20s and had a daughter with her first husband. Not much information was revealed about her daughter, but the girl, unfortunately, died in her early years of life while playing. Something was mentioned about her slipping or falling from a great height. However, I don't know if this was at school, in a playground, or even at her house. A short time later, Lady Eom attacked her husband. I guess, for some reason, she didn't want to be with him anymore. Because they didn't fight, they didn't argue. On the contrary, they seemed to be the perfect couple. They loved each other very much and were always happy. At least, that's what he thought. But in reality, she was planning his death. So she takes some sleeping pills and mixes them with a drink she gives to him. And while her husband was in a deep sleep, Lady Eom takes a safety pin and pricks his eye. This caused him to go blind. Her husband woke up blind and had no idea what had happened. He didn't suspect Lady Eom. No one suspected her because she was so pretty, so pure and kind. She always took care of her husband and was very attentive to him, especially after he went blind. But a few months pass and Lady Eom still wants to get rid of this husband, so she thinks of taking hot oil and throwing it in her husband's face, which caused him severe burns, but fortunately he survived. Again, no one suspected Lady Eom. They thought it had been an accident, since he was blind and that he had probably caused it to himself. Months later, she decides to stab him. She did it while they were having dinner. She took a knife and drove it into him. However, he didn't die. So at night, she gave him more sleeping pills, and while he was unconscious, she stabbed him a second time. This caused a serious injury to one of his organs. She took him to the hospital, where, unfortunately, he died. Again, no one suspected her. I don't know what she told the authorities, but they didn't interrogate her, they didn't press charges. Basically, they let her go free, without questioning her at all. However, later, Lady Eom said that her husband had injured himself, as he had a history of self-harm. After having gone blind, because he no longer wanted to stay alive. Apparently, they believed the story. The plan worked for Lady Eom because they let her go without pressing charges, or interrogating her, or arresting her. But she did receive more than $200,000 from her husband's insurance. After a few months, she met another man and they got married quickly. He was head over heels in love with her. But she, again, had other plans. It hadn't even been a year since her late husband's death, when she had already remarried and was pregnant. Shortly after, she used the same tactic as with her previous husband. She gave him those sleeping pills again, and while her husband was unconscious, asleep, she took a safety pin and pricked his eye. When you prick someone's eye like this, the reason you go blind is because your eye swells so much that you can't open it. Up to this point, you'd think people were already suspecting something, right? Her first husband first went blind, and now her new husband is also blind. It was suspicious, but no. No one suspected her. They thought all of this was just a simple coincidence. Even her new husband's family was grateful to her because she always went to the hospital to care for him. She was very attentive and a good person, or so they thought. But Lady Eom was so pretty, so kind, that no one believed she would be capable of doing that. She was a very good actress. Her husband went to the hospital frequently, not because of the blindness, but because he had frequent injuries. Injuries that no one could explain. But again, no one suspected Lady Eom. It seemed to them that the most logical thing was that, since her husband had just gone blind, maybe he wasn't used to it yet. And maybe he could have tripped, maybe he fell or hit himself on something. A few months later, the husband is hospitalized again for serious health problems. His family said he recovered quickly, that everything seemed to be fine and he would be discharged soon. But unfortunately, he died hours after his family's visit. This was very painful for his family and also a surprise, since it seemed like he had recovered. He was about to be discharged. He was healthy and strong, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The husband's family told Lady Eom, who was pregnant at the time, that it would be best if she didn't have the baby. That there was still time and being a single mother would be very difficult. But Lady Eom said she wanted to have this child and wanted to continue her husband's legacy, since she loved him very much. And she felt that part of his soul was inside this baby. The family was moved by Lady Eom's words, so they continued to support her both emotionally and financially. But shortly after her second husband's death, she was able to collect the insurance money once again. And having this money, she distanced herself from the husband's family and fled. It wasn't long before the husband's family realized many of the lies Lady Eom had told them. For example, she mentioned that she had studied at the university, which turned out not to be true. She said she specialized in early childhood education, again, not true. And she said she was a teacher, which again was a lie. They also realized that, days before her husband went blind, she had taken out life insurance, in case her husband went blind. So that's when they realized all of her plans, and how she anticipated everything from the beginning. Lady Eom was very irresponsible with money and spent everything on clothes, parties, and luxurious things. So she quickly ran out of money and had to look for a new victim. She chose her own family. Her mom had some properties and a lot of money that her children would inherit when she passed away. So, Lady Eom's plan was to get rid of her brothers and her mother so that she could keep the entire fortune for herself. So she went to her mother's house and told her that she had found a new drink that was really good for her health. And she served her this drink with, you guessed it, sleeping pills. She also did this to her older brother, and while they were unconscious, once again, she poked their eyes with a safety pin. When her brother was in the hospital and she was supposed to be taking care of him, she put poison in his IV. Fortunately, her plan didn't work out as she expected and her brother survived, which made her furious since she wanted to get rid of him. Once again, she had no money and was trying to get it the easy way, and her family plan had failed. But she convinced her mother to sell a property she owned and to give her part of the money. I don't know how she convinced her mother, maybe because she was a very charismatic and manipulative person, but her mother agreed and gave her part of the money, a large amount of money, which she again spent irresponsibly on clothes, bags, and parties. Her family began to suspect her since she asked them for money again. Her mother told her she wasn't going to give her any more money and asked her what she had done with what she'd already given her. She started telling some lies. And then she got very angry that they were questioning her. She left the place and began to plan how she could finally get rid of her family. Days later, she went to the apartment where her brothers lived, her older and younger brother. Lady Eom decided to set the apartment on fire while her brothers were inside, who suffered serious injuries, but fortunately survived. At this point, her family was already sure that Lady Eom was up to something. and that she was responsible for all the accidents that had been happening in her family. As I mentioned, Lady Eom was very irresponsible with money and always spent it. Therefore, she had no house, she had no money, she had nowhere to eat. Basically, she had nothing. So she contacted her nanny. I want to mention here that I don't know if she's referring to the nanny she had in her childhood or the nanny she hired to take care of her son. But the point is that she went to a nanny, and she asked her if she could please stay with her for a month at most, since she had nowhere to live. The nanny agreed because she felt sorry for her. Lady Eom was very good at faking emotions and manipulated people until she got what she wanted. A month passed, and it was time for Lady Eom to look for another place to live, which bothered her a lot since she had no other option. And instead of talking to the nanny and asking her if she could stay longer in this place, she decided to set her apartment on fire. The fire spread quickly, and the nanny's husband ended up dying because of this fire. In addition to the nanny and her daughter suffering severe burns. Lady Eom's plan was always to keep the insurance money, and she had it all planned out. Insurance pays out more money if the insured person passes away. But the second reason you get more benefits is if the person goes blind. And the third reason is because of a fire. All of these were methods that Lady Eom used. At this point, again, she has no money, no home, she's a single mother, and she has a young son who is sick. He had Kawasaki disease. It's a disorder that causes inflammation in the walls of some blood vessels in the body. It's most common in infants and young children. For this reason, he went to the hospital frequently. But since she wasn't working, she didn't have money to pay the hospital bill. And that's where she meets her next victim, a woman who is also a relative of a patient at the hospital. Lady Eom stole her credit card to pay her son's hospital bill, but she also used the card to buy even more clothes. Shortly after, her son dies in the hospital. The information wasn't made public, so I don't know what the cause of death was. But many people believe she did something to her own son and caused his death, while other people believe he died because of his illness. Although the illness he had doesn't usually cause death. It's unlikely if it's treated, and he was undergoing treatment. Lady Eom, once again, needed a place to stay and needed money. So she went to the woman whose credit card she stole and told her everything that was happening in her life. She told her she lost her 2 children, she lost her husbands, and she was practically alone. The woman felt sorry for her, plus she knew her from the hospital, and decided to invite her to her home. While there, once again, Lady Eom decides to get rid of this woman. She mixed sleeping pills into her drink. She fell fast asleep, and when she woke up, she had a safety pin in her eye. Lady Eom took her to the hospital where she cared for her and pretended to know nothing about what had happened. This woman didn't lose her sight, but she did have serious injuries and was on the verge of going blind. While Lady Eom was furious that, once again, her plan had failed, and it seemed to her that the most logical thing would be to set the hospital on fire. And she did just that. She set fire to the place. And that's when they finally caught her. Of course they were going to catch her if she tried to burn down the hospital. But also the other things she did were quite obvious, and no one suspected anything of her. But anyway, there were no injuries, nor any serious or irreparable losses in terms of hospital equipment. She was caught by security cameras and was arrested. She never said what the reason was for doing all this, as she always made up stories that later they turned out to be false. During the trial, she tried to use an insanity defense, meaning she's not responsible for what she did because she has a psychiatric illness, but the judge didn't accept this. He said she was aware of what she was doing and did these things with malice, that is, with intent, so she was sentenced to prison. I'm not sure how many years she got, since I couldn't find the final sentence, but let's hope it was life imprisonment, as she's a very dangerous person. And she doesn't deserve to be free. As I mentioned at the beginning, she had a psychiatric evaluation and was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Symptoms of this disorder include emotional instability and impulsivity. In addition to scoring 40 out of 40 on the psychopathy test. A psychopathic person has different characteristics, such as, for example, using your charisma and lies to get what you want, in addition to using the people around them. Something Lady Eom always did. Another characteristic is not feeling regret or remorse, especially when you hurt other people. Basically, psychopathic people don't care if they hurt someone else. They also make justifications for their actions, all the time. This was something Lady Eom always did, and even more so when she was on trial. She said the reason she did all this was because she had lost her 2 children and couldn't get over this loss. Although later, the most likely theory was that she always did this for the insurance money, which seems most logical to me, and it's even suspected that she was responsible for her children's deaths to once again keep the insurance money. And that's all the information about this case. It's a very interesting case, but at the same time I was quite surprised by the evil of this woman. It's incredible that she hurt her family so much in that way.